Hi, my name is Janet Simmons. This video is based on the presentation I gave at the Congress of Social Sciences and Humanities held at Brock University in St. Catharines, Ontario. I presented this original research paper to the Canadian Society for the Studies in Higher Education. This research is a result of my MEd thesis. It was a much larger project than presented here and includes both qualitative and quantitative research methods. While the agenda does appear quite full, I will briefly touch on many of these points but spend the majority of our time on the results and conclusions. I was interested in motivation, particularly of social network site uses. I chose Twitter because Facebook seemed too personal, LinkedIn too professional, and I wasn't sure if Google+ was used beyond early adopters and those already using social networks. From this, I wanted to find out why professors use Twitter and what motivates them, and equally important, what demotivates them. My literature review revealed that most Twitter studies are of American Twitter users. These data cannot be compared to the Canadian faculty population for two reasons. First, the structure of post-secondary education in the two countries is vastly different. And secondly, the internet reach is different, specifically with availability, speed, and cost. Social networking has permeated not only campuses in Canada, but businesses and personal lives as well. Does this play a role in motivating or demotivating professors to use Twitter? Unlike elementary and secondary school teachers, professors are responsible for their own professional development. Do they use Twitter to find out what is new in their subject discipline? The Faculty Focus 2010 survey appears to be the largest Twitter study in post-secondary education. The results show an increase of use, and that is mostly used to share information with peers and as a real-time news source. Other studies were not as comprehensive, did not pertain to faculty use, or had a small sample size. Two frameworks were studied for this research, TAM and UTOP, also known as the Unified Theory of Acceptance and Use of Technology. These frameworks guided the directions of the semi-structured interview questions. In the TAM framework, I focused on perceived ease of use and perceived usefulness, particularly focused on how these affected attitudes towards using Twitter. In the UTOP model, I focused on effort expectancy, social influence, and how these affect attention and actual use. There were 3 participants in this qualitative portion, and all were from a mid-sized Canadian university. Participants were self-selected. They originally participated in an online survey for this study, and the final question asked for volunteers for the qualitative portion for the research. The first participant is an avid Twitter user, and the second one used Twitter for a month and no longer uses it. The third user had just started using Twitter and had yet to decide whether or not to continue. Using Braun and Clark's thematic analysis method, the interviews were transcribed and 3 volunteers in the education field then identified keywords and phrases. These were then placed into broad themes, and categories. In this video, I'll discuss only the Twitter themes and leave the other areas I researched for future videos. The data indicates that if a professor is mentored for Twitter use, he or she is more likely to continue using it. They also appear to enjoy discovering new ways to learn, and they have a propensity for exploration. The professor who no longer uses Twitter felt intimidated by Twitter, did not understand how it worked, and stated that they did not enjoy using a computer. Both this user and the one who had just started felt that Twitter could be a time waster. Online privacy was mentioned, but only when discussing Facebook. The main concern with Twitter was sharing too much information about personal lives. To combat this, the avid Twitter participant maintains 4 Twitter accounts, including 1 for personal use only. All 3 had concerns about technology overload, and the avid Twitter participant uses Hootsuite, a third-party platform to help manage time and accounts. Interestingly, after the interview, the new Twitter user asked me for tips to use Twitter more effectively. The non-Twitter user, however, felt overwhelmed with technology and did not ask for time management tips. But the non-Twitter user did ask me why I use Twitter and what I thought the benefits were. All participants stated that the vast majority of their students do not use Twitter. The non-Twitter participant did not want to force students to use Twitter because the participants felt that technology was forced on them and did not want to perpetuate the cycle. The avid Twitter participant found that some students continued to use Twitter after graduation and successfully built an online community where alumni and current students discuss issues relevant to the subject discipline and provided career advice. The avid Twitter user and new user employ Twitter to find information and share information about their subject discipline. They share this information with peers and students. These two users often use the words information, filter, and timely to describe why they believe Twitter is useful to them. The findings for motivation were not too surprising. The two Twitter users appeared to emphasize personal and self-directed learning and find information that can be used and shared with peers and students. Both stated that they had found information through Twitter that pertained to their subject discipline. They emphasized that in some cases they would not have found this information through their normal or regular means of staying abreast of issues in the field. It was very surprising, though, when one participant stated that using Twitter and connecting with students might increase the professor's student evaluation scores. This was an unanticipated comment and use of Twitter in higher education. All three participants mentioned technology overload to some degree, but the avid Twitter user employs other tools to manage the various technologies. The non-Twitter user found that technology itself was demotivating and could not understand the purpose of Twitter. The non-Twitter user also could not see the point of adding another communication function because the LMS was the primary means of communication between students and professors. The participants' use and motivation to use Twitter appears to agree with the technology acceptance model that it must be perceived as useful and perceived as easy to use. Their attitude toward technology, particularly the characteristics of exploring and their predisposition to learning new technologies, appear to indicate Twitter adoption. I did not explore all the areas of the UTOP model in this research, but I found that social influence appears to be the impetus to try Twitter, but continued mentoring appears to be much stronger influence and increases the likelihood of continued success. Future researchers may wish to create a new framework for their use of studying social network sites. Additionally, it is unclear how connections are made and maintained by professors and the value professors place on the connections with peers, students, and alumni. Finally, the surprise was the comment about student evaluations. This indicates there may be other motives researchers are unaware of, and further research is needed to gain a more comprehensive picture of how Twitter and other social networking sites are used by professors. Overall, this study confirmed that perceived ease of use and perceived usefulness were important factors professors considered when evaluating whether or not to explore using Twitter. But the connections made and maintained along with the guidance from other users appear to be influential factors that help decide whether or not professors continue to use Twitter and find value in the social networks. Thank you for watching.